René y Ricky, ya se recibieron sus instrucciones, vuelvo a repetir, que era una pelea limpia, obedecen mis instrucciones todo el tiempo y mucho más importante, protéjense durante la pelea todo el tiempo. Les deseo suerte, desen guantes. Thanks, man.
Jim, you mentioned Gamboa's inactivity. When he beat Salido over 5 years ago, Orlando Salido, that was considered an okay win for him. Won almost every round, totally dominated the fight. Salido had a big weight advantage, just as he had against Lomachenko in a fight Salido won. And that was only an okay win for him. He's been inactive. He's in against a tough, busy fighter tonight.
The last time we saw Gamboa here on HBO was in the 2014 Fight of the Year against Terence Crawford. Crawford wound up winning that one after Gamboa had the drop on him in the early rounds. He was faster than Terence Crawford, but he wasn't big enough, essentially, Roy Jones, to stay in the fight once Crawford found him and measured his shots.
Yeah, I think he's a little shorter for the lightweight division. I didn't like him as a lightweight just because of his height. I think he always would fare better as a junior lightweight or a featherweight. So I think that was a mistake by going up that high in weight. Secondly, though, Max, to beat the guy you said,
Orlando Salido.
To beat Salido with Salido outweighing him and Salido doing what he did with Lomachenko makes you have to wonder how good of a matchup would it be to see Gamboa versus Lomachenko.
Well, that's the point.
At 130.
At 130, which is a stocked division, Gamboa would be a likely candidate to fight Lomachenko if he wanted that fight, but he has to win tonight. This is a guy, the reason I brought up the Salido fight, who was a super fighter, Gamboa, or on his way to being one at that time, and inactivity, and Terence Crawford has knocked him down a peg or two, and he's trying to regain some of that luster tonight.
And Alvarado just threw a pretty good looking right hand, Max. I don't know how much it really had on it, but it seemed pretty strong, so we'll have to see what happens if he lands one of those tonight.
Quick right hand lands inside for Gamboa, as Alvarado, who told us that he wanted to come in and pressure Gamboa and take him against the ropes and fight an inside fight, has done nothing of the sort in the first round, as he has circled the ring looking at Gamboa from distance and fighting in a way that makes it a little bit easier, I think, for yuriorki Gamboa.
Yeah, yuriorki Gamboa is pretty much a good boxer. He had probably over 300 amateur fights, so he's a wonderful boxer. If you let him box, he's going to give you a hard time.
And you can see the hand speed as he goes inside, firing with both hands against Alvarado.
He's an incredibly fast fighter, a good puncher. At times he gets a little desperate with his offense, and that's when he can come in squared up and off balance, and has been susceptible to knockdowns in his career in that position.
When he starts punching, you see that cyclone come alive, like it says on the front of his trunks.
Right. A great nickname, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Rene Alvarado is one of a pair of identical twins who are both professional fighters, fighting out of Managua, Nicaragua. His twin brother fights in a lower weight class and is likewise regarded as an aggressor. Benji Esteves warning yuriorki Gamboa against holding on the inside.
No, I don't know what language it was, but I think he said no hitting on the break.
Oh, hitting on the break. Thank you.
Pretty good round for Gamboa, all things considered, against a fighter who's been active, has had some tough tests and passed some of them, considering Gamboa's inactivity.
Gamboa bows to Esteves, the referee, on the way back to the ring by way of saying, okay, I heard you, and I will not hit on the break.
Very good. When you're pushing it back, two hands, two shots, right and the left. You can't just take him back and don't do anything. Remember the hook calls.
Gamboa's trainer is his father, Carlos Gamboa, who, like yuriorki, had a deep background as an amateur fighter in Cuba.
Don't open up too much. Get close, all right? Get a little bit closer, you can do your combinations. And don't despair. The punch is going to get it. Don't worry about it. Swing a 1-2 with the hook. When you catch him up against the ropes, get your range. And in the middle, obviously it's difficult for you. But get him on the ropes, and that'll be better for you.
Round two begins. Talk about a long life in fighting. Yuriorki Gamboa went to live on La Finca, the farm-like facility where Cuban amateur fighters train for the national team, as an early teen. So he has been a fighter by identity and a fighter more or less by trade for more than 20 years at age 35.
Yes, with more than 300 amateur fights, takes a lot of toll on your body.
You also just don't walk off the street and go to La Finca. I mean, you get recruited to do that, so it's not as though he throws his first punch at that point.
He had to be somebody before he even got there, because they had to see him to okay and say, we want you here. You got to make that team there.
It's going to be interesting. It's hard to imagine. Gamboa is already 35 years old. And even though he has that deep amateur experience, he is a fighter who relies on those fast twitch muscles, those real quick reflexes. And age robs a fighter of half a step, a microsecond, and a fighter with Gamboa's style can really suffer. So far, he looks pretty sharp tonight.
It looks very good to be had to have been laid off for so long, Max. I'm pretty impressed with his look right now, with his timing, with the way he's throwing his punches, with his footwork. I'm really impressed with him, being that he's been laid off for so long.
Yeah, it was hit by a right hand earlier in this round, but that was the first real shot he's been hit with.
Still showing good reflexes, too.
He actually seemed to be in control in 2014 against Terrence Crawford until the moment when Crawford turned southpaw. And that, of course, is a pattern that we've now seen repeated throughout the rest of Crawford's career, where he kind of lulls an opponent into thinking that he might have some comfort zone, fighting him in the conventional stance, and then he turns southpaw and begins to hit them with hard power shots. That's what he did to Gamboa.
And actually, as soon as he turned southpaw, Gamboa whacked him with a few overhand lefts.
Exactly, as you said he would.
Yeah, and but Crawford stayed there and just stayed consistent with what he was doing, and he kind of took care of business.
Crawford's a naturally bigger guy than Gamboa.
Hard right hand by Gamboa over the top.
Yep.
That one hurt Alvarado.
Crawford's a sensational fighter, naturally larger in his prime. And Gamboa lost a sensational fight. No shame in that.
None whatsoever.
Segundos.
Gamboa's body structure reminds you of a miniature Mike Tyson that can move.
100%.
Tune in Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. for a replay of 24/7 Golovkin-Jacobs for an inside look into the lives and camps of Gennady Golovkin and Daniel Jacobs as they prepare for their middleweight unification fight. And then 1 week from tonight on HBO pay-per-view, it's the live fight for middleweight supremacy between Gennady Golovkin and Daniel Jacobs, along with Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez on the undercard, defending his 115-pound crown and his unofficial title as the consensus world #1 pound for pound against Srisaket Sorungvisai. Srisaket Sorungvisai. Practice that 6 times in your bathroom.
Always keep your guard up and move on to the side. He's waiting for you to throw. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen up, let's go. Let's go, sharp, sharp.
Round 3 begins, and let's see how Harold Letterman, our unofficial ringside scorer, has scored the first 2 rounds of this 10-round fight.
Okay, Jim, I got it 20-18, 2-0, yuriorki Gamboa. Jim, as far as I can see in this fight, he's landed a much better punches consistently. You know, he looks at him for a while, then he gets aggressive, and he lets his hands go, and he just whacks this guy, and he's been doing it for 2 rounds. Interestingly enough, Jim, I don't know if you noticed in the pre-fight tail of the tape, this guy gained 15 pounds in 1 day. I'm talking about yuriorki Gamboa. So he's the much bigger guy. I mean, he weighed in at 131, and he came in the ring tonight at 145, which means that he's throwing powerful shots. I mean, he's actually a welterweight. 2-0, Gamboa.
The day before weigh-ins, it used to be day of weigh-ins, have most fighters in boxing fighting at least 1 weight class below where they should really be. Meantime, Gamboa fought with an urgency offensively early in his career. Has shown flashes of that tonight, guys, but in front of a crowd that obviously hasn't shown up to watch him and is not very excited right now, considering his inactivity and the fact he hasn't been out in front of the American fight public, I think he needs to show a little more urgency than he's shown so far. Not much. I think he's doing fine considering he's in with a real fighter, but he could show a little more offensive urgency as this fight wears on.
No, I think he's doing a terrific job, Max. I think when you've been out for that long, you have to come in and get your bearings back first, get your timing back, get your rhythm back, get used to seeing punches coming at you. This guy is not an ordinary boxer, Alvarado. He's different. He has a weird style.
But hear that? Hear the boos starting?
I understand that, but that's not. If he gets knocked out, can you imagine how many cheers it's going to be?
You're right.
That's not good for him.
In the fighter meeting yesterday, though, Gamboa was specific about wanting to impress. So for people who appreciate the fact that he's been inactive and how skillful and talented he is, he'll impress.
Yeah.
But to a Joe fight fan, I think he'd like to see a little more, as the fight wears on, offensive urgency.
Joe fight and Joe promoter, if he gets knocked out, they're going to be all really pissed off. So
that's the age-old debate in boxing.
He's got the hand speed to be an outstanding combination puncher. And you expect that with more frequent activity, he'd feel more comfortable going forward and using all of that hand speed more frequently. But yes, every once in a while, he'll have a lull where he sort of stands and watches.
He was sensational with a couple right hands just then.
And last summer, Rene Alvarado scored a career-defining victory over Jason Velez. That's probably what put him in the ring here tonight, but the months that followed turned out to be the most difficult of Rene's and his fiance's lives.
I come from Managua, Nicaragua. My family is the most important thing for me. I was very happy when my wife became pregnant. We were going to have another child, a girl. As a family, we were ready for her to arrive. She was born the 18th of April, and a month after that, we saw she was having some issues with her heart. And so as the months went by, she would worsen. And unfortunately, she passed when she was 7 months old. My daughter's name was Isa Renesme Alvarado Gonzalez. And yes, I think about her every moment in time. When I go to sleep, when I wake up, I'm always thinking about her. I would love to see her. And I imagine what it would be like, this whole process, to have her here. I want to dedicate this fight to her. And what better way to dedicate this fight to her than God blessing us with a win?
Round 4 of a scheduled 10. Alvarado in the white trunks of blue trim. Yuriorki Gamboa in the American flag trunks, which bear the same colors as his original nation of Cuba.
The problem for Gamboa right now is his talent and the combination of his punishing offense and his defense, his reflexes, are keeping Alvarado's output low. Alvarado's usually a busier fighter than this. And because Gamboa is perhaps wisely, as Roy points out, not taking unnecessary risks, the fight is dull.
And even with it being a little bit dull, it's still not as dull as what we're used to seeing when we see most of the other Cuban guys fight.
I started to say Cuban amateurs have been bedeviled by this ever since they began coming to the USA.
Exactly. They're more of a boxer than a fighter or a puncher. So he's doing a better job than most do because at least he's taking a few risks. And to have been off for so long, I'm just happy to see him taking any risk at all.
I know what you mean. I mean, but Gamboa was different in that he was a former Cuban amateur star who, when he showed up in the pro ranks, was a dynamic offensive fighter.
Fought like a gunslinger. Walked in with his hands held low, down at his waist, invited contact from opponents. And by the way, that's one of the reasons that, counting the 4 knockdowns by Crawford, there are 6 others he's been down 10 times in his professional career.
Most of those, not the Crawford knockdowns, but most of those were balance shots because of that urgency to land his own offense.
And so we're going to ask him come in off of how long he's been off, a year layoff?
Again.
And go back with that same style? No, he can't do that right now.
15-month layoff.
15 months.
This was the longest layoff yet.
Exactly. So you can't go in like that when you know you're prone to being knocked down already. You got to be very careful.
I agree early. We'll see what happens as the fight wears on. And some of that's on Alvarado, too. He's got to get busier. He's also, there are 2 guys in there, and he's got to also try to make the fight.
I mean, regardless of whether you're enjoying watching it, you have to give credit to Gamboa for completely taking Alvarado out of his game.
Yep, he's very sharp, Gamboa, right now.
But the crowd shows what they think so far of the entertainment value of what Gamboa is doing. And meanwhile, we're still waiting for what we expect to be a highly entertaining main event between that man, David Lemieux, with his trainer, Mark Ramsey. Lemieux lost an 8th-round technical knockout to Gennady Golovkin in his biggest test, and so too did Curtis Stevens of Brownsville, Brooklyn, with his trainer, John David Jackson. Both are warming up for what is expected to be a punching extravaganza in the main event.
Throw over the top. I haven't seen that one over the top. Touch of the body and over the top. You have to let go more. Let go of those. Let your hands go. Come on, he's open. Throw your hands. Be confident. Just bite and throw. Stuck the stomach. It's my hands up. Come on, fast hands.
In his last 4 fights coming into this fight, Rene Alvarado averaged 85 punches thrown per round. Tonight, he is throwing 30 punches per round. And all the credit for that has to go to yuriorki Gamboa. His speed, his movement, his elusiveness, and perhaps the threat of the damage that he can do with his punches. But it doesn't make the fight entertaining. That now falls on Gamboa, and he seems to recognize it as he begins to hunt a little bit more aggressively for some contact.
Right. Roy and I were on the same page early. I think where we differ is, I think, as the fight wears on, Gamboa, once he gets the rounds in, has got to get a little more aggressive like that.
And as he warms up and gets his legs back on them and gets his bearings back, it's possible that he could.
Yeah.
That brought a burst of enthusiasm from the crowd. That's what they wanted to see. Gamboa throwing punches in combination and trying to do damage.
And by the way, it involves risk. I mean, risk means it's not all upside. There's some downside to it, too. It is risky.
And that's what you were referring to earlier in his career. He looked like the highest risk fighter of all the Cuban refugees we had seen coming from their great national team. Certainly he wasn't Joel Casamayor again. He was something different. But as the career has gone on, he's become a little bit more of a hunt and peck fighter.
And it was not only different stylistically, but even in terms of the upside, in terms of the talent. He was faster, he hit harder. He's in a weight, he hopes to campaign. Tonight was contracted for 132, 2 pounds above the junior lightweight limit.
But he was almost all the way down to 130 anyway.
Right, and that's where he wants to campaign, a really good, really deep division. Lomachenko on top, of course, but Burchelt and Miura and
Vargas. Salido, if he chooses to fight at that level.
Corrales, who just got the...
There are a lot of them.
Yep.
But increasingly, the question in the 130-pound division, despite all of that depth and talent, is who could challenge Lomachenko.
And this is a guy, in terms of the talent, another gold medalist in the amateurs with hundreds of wins, and was a spectacular pro not long ago. And by the way, is here dominating every moment of this fight.
Dominating in a way that may not help him all that much. He really needs the opponent to try to help him make a fire here. And Alvarado was probably chosen as the opponent by the promoter because of the expectation that he would come in and throw fire at Gamboa. He isn't doing it.
Hard to imagine someone like Miura or Vargas not throwing fire.
Exactly. Those are go-forward fighters. April 8th on World Championship Boxing, Vasily Lomachenko quickly establishing himself as one of the most devastating punchers in boxing, defends his 130-pound title against Jason Sosa. April 19th, it's the season premiere of my show, The Fight Game. Join me, Max Kellerman, Bernard Hopkins, and Melissa Stark as we tackle some of the biggest stories in boxing.
You got to throw. Listen now. You've got to go at the tag. He's ready for that swing that you got, all right? So now attack that the way you're supposed to do it. 3 punches. Swing the right swing. Swing right hook.
Here we don't give enough credit to inactivity, but you see right here when Gamboa throws his overhand right, he lands the left hook to the head, but usually that was more of a slap than a hook because of inactivity. Had he been active, that punch may have set Alvarado down.
Why is that, Roy?
Because he's not been in the ring fighting. He gets rusty because of inactivity. Same thing we saw with Hopkins' last fight. Same thing we saw when the kid came back and fought Lomachenko last.
Wait, but I mean, meaning the inactivity changes the way he throws the punch, or
no, it's
the elbow down, or what?
He hasn't had the rhythm. His rhythm is off right now, so his timing, everything about the way he's fighting is off right now because he hasn't fought lately.
Harold Letterman, how do you have it scored through 5?
Okay, Jim, I got a 5-0, 50-45 yuriorki Gamboa. Jim, Rene Alvarado's just doing nothing. I mean, I hate to say it's a stinking fight, but it's a stinking fight. Rene Alvarado didn't come to fight. He's not trying. He's doing very, very little in there. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the fact that Gamboa weighs 145 pounds and he's getting hit by a welterweight, so they don't want to fight. But be as it may, it's all Gamboa. He's the aggressor. He's landing the hardest shots. He's coming forward. Look at that.
Uppercut.
Good shots. 5-0, yuriorki Gamboa.
I don't like the idea that fighters weigh in the day before the fight, but that's the way it's done.
That means you haven't liked it for 30 years.
Right, but as long as you make the contracted weight, you can blow up as much as problem with Gamboa's weight tonight because he made the contracted weight.
Everybody's fascinated, by the way, to see first whether Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is going to make weight against Canelo Alvarez on May 6th, and second of all, after he rehydrates, where will he be? And by how many pounds is he going to outweigh Canelo? That's a big part of the intrigue of that fight.
Sure. I mean, fighters who can game the system or exploit the rules, as long as it's within the rules, that's fine. And Roy, if this is Gamboa rusty, boy, wait till he gets sharp.
Of course.
He looks pretty good tonight in terms of the boxing.
Yeah, he does. He looks very good with his footwork. He looks very good with his counter shots, and he's not been in the ring lately, so. And the guy I was referring to earlier about the inactivity was also Nicholas Walters. I think we'd have got a much better fight out of him and Lomachenko had he been active. Now Gamboa going southpaw. We're back to right-handed again. See that right hand he threw the MX, that was a slap because that's inactivity slap. You feel me?
Yeah, the hook was pretty good though.
Yeah, but the right hand was an inactivity slap because he hasn't been out there fighting. And
so in other words, the timing's not just right. He's not going to catch him right at the end of his punch.
No, he's not because he hasn't been active. Good right hand by Alvarado.
And that's another reason Gamboa may not look as aggressive or as explosive, because some of those counter shots he's throwing isn't staggering his opponent, so he's not jumping on a hurt fighter as he otherwise might.
You're working good, but you're too far back. You got to get in a bit closer. You got to get in a little bit closer. Flex your body, get in a little bit closer so the punches are more precise. You're too far back, so you're too open with your legs. Understood? You got to look for him more. I told you, when you have him against the ropes, you have to attack. No more swings to the head, so don't shoulder, over the top.
Here you see Gamboa with the overhand right, followed by a little bit better left hook. He's getting better. That one was a little harder. Still landed with the thumb, but then he got slung down right here by Alvarado. And once again, it's just a matter of ring rust and keeping that balance after you punch.
So we get to the 7th round of a scheduled 10. And in addition to all the other ways in which the fight is falling short of what we and the promoter would have wanted, we go to CompuBox numbers, where we see that in total punches so far through 6 rounds, Gamboa landed 51 out of 234. That's 22%. That's desultory. But Alvarado is 21 out of 164. That's 13%. That's below desultory. That's dreadful. And that's another way in which the fight is falling short. There's no accuracy.
None whatsoever. And it's mainly because Gamboa has to take all the risks. He has to jump in, and like right there, see I got caught with that right hand, he's hurt now.
Yep.
He's hurt. See what I'm saying? That's what he's been running from all night long, because he knows he's not been active. So it's not hard to put him down right now if Alvarado catches him with a good shot. That's why he's been safe all night. Oh, he hit him right down.
For the second time, Alvarado slings Gamboa to the canvas.
This is one of the reasons that the Cuban amateur style gets a bad rap. It's so good at negating
Hard right hand by Gamboa.
the opponent's offense. It neutralizes the opponent, makes them scared to punch because they're going to get countered. So normally aggressive fighters become docile, and because the Cuban style is not to force the offense, you wind up with a low punch output fight.
And that's what hurts them, and that's why they get a bad rep.
It's very effective competitively, but not commercially.
Alvarado lands 2 right hands. Landed probably 2 of his very best punches in the fight here in this round. Maybe he's beginning to show up a little bit, but I think we have to face the fact that because of the nature of the fight so far, a unanimous decision win is going to do nothing for the resurrection of yuriorki Gamboa's career. If he doesn't score a spectacular knockout somewhere between here and the end of round 10, then this is going to be another lost evening in what has been far too much of a lost career for yuriorki
He better
Gamboa.
hope it's not an actually lost fight.
That's exactly right. You better hope he doesn't get caught with a big shot and gets knocked out. That's what's most important for him right now. Not to go out and win impressively, but not to get knocked out impressively.
Oh, this is the difference also between fighting at 126 and, you know, fighting a guy who is going to weigh in over the lightweight limit. They can take your punches better, and their punches land with more authority.
But once again, it was Gamboa who came into the ring with a functional weight advantage, having rehydrated to a far greater degree overnight than Alvarado.
Yep, he's still not hitting a featherweight, though, nor being hit by one.
10 segundos.
Tuesday, March 21, the next Real Sports has the story of Texas Rangers pitcher Matt Bush. Drafted #1 overall in 2004, Bush finally reached the majors last season, following years of off-the-field turmoil, culminating in a 3-year stint in prison. Real Sports, Tuesday, March 21.
Much better in this round, son. Cross him over, son. Cross him over. You're not crossing it over. Pressure him. Give me the water now. Pressure him. Combinations, 4, 5, 6 punches. Dude, bring your right up. Use the left, set it up, and shoot it over the top. Don't forget that one.
This is why Gamboa has been playing us safe. See Alvarado throw this feint down, come right over the top with a beautiful right hand, right on the chin of yuriorki Gamboa. Very good right hand.
Now we go to round 8 of the scheduled 10. 3 more rounds in which for Gamboa to try to score a knockout that would make this a much more satisfying evening. 3 more rounds in which for Alvarado to show that he had a reason to show up here tonight beyond the paycheck.
The discouraging thing, if you're a Gamboa fan, is that he was completely dominant when he was playing it safe. And as he got more aggressive and took risks, he got hurt by a guy who's really not in his class.
Good jab by Gamboa.
Good jab, but in isolation. What both corners have asked their fighters for consistently is more combination punching, putting punches together. That's what's been difficult for both of them. Although Gamboa has clearly dominated the fight in terms of competitive effect.
And Gamboa is doing a great job of taking one step back and countering. Just that Alvarado is not giving him much to counter.
Quick right hand by Gamboa. No attempt to follow up.
Yeah, as the shorter fighter, when the other guy wants to play defense, as Alvarado just did, it's hard to land those crisp shots from the outside. Gamboa needs to rely on landing in exchanges, having Alvarado open up. The problem is he was tagged and hurt in the previous round in an exchange.
Yeah, and any time for him that he's in an exchange, he's always in range to be hit because he's a short fighter who likes to try to box.
Those pot shots, though, aren't getting through for the most part.
No, they're not.
And now the booing becomes pervasive in the arena.
And if Gamboa's smart, he better not listen to it because he only can lose this fight by fighting crazy like that. If he stays with what he's doing, he's winning. He should take the win and get out of here. Good jab by Alvarado.
10 segundos.
There may be some sophisticates who find this interesting to watch purely because it's a documentation of what's happening in Gamboa's career. But if you bought a ticket to see David Lemieux against Curtis Stevens, this isn't what you wanted to see. These two guys are most likely to get into the ring and fire away. David Lemieux, a pure puncher with skill, who has dominated most every one of his opponents, with the exception of Gennady Golovkin, and Curtis Stevens, who had a long amateur career as the rarest kind of commodity, an amateur puncher, an amateur knockout artist for a long time, and has had a serviceable pro career. And both men will be gunning for big damage and possible knockout when they get into the ring against each other.
And I'm almost willing to guarantee you that we will get our money's worth of fireworks in this main event.
Happy to hear that. So if it doesn't happen, it's on you.
If it doesn't happen, I'll take the blame. I will take the blame.
I don't think you have a thing to worry about. Both Stevens and Lemieux fight as though they have a parked car running and waiting for them.
That's how Gamboa used to fight on the way up.
Back in the day. Harold, how do you have it so far?
Okay, Jim, I've got it 7 rounds to 1, 79-73, yuriorki Gamboa. You know, Jim, I thought Rene Alvarado opened up and won the 7th round, but I figured he'd come out punching in the 8th round, and he certainly didn't. I thought Gamboa won the 8th round. Yeah, I've got it 7.
Oh, there it is.
Alvarado takes a terrific punch. Look at that.
Now Gamboa gets the message and winds up hitting Alvarado while he's down.
Twice. I would have got disqualified. Might have got kicked out of boxing for that.
They're going to give you 2
What the hell?
I mean, but that's Gamboa. See, and the difference when you're fighting a bigger guy is those kind of shots that he landed in that exchange were fight-changing shots. Suddenly the other guy was never the same. And Gamboa would pounce on him and take him out. Against larger guys, they're not having the same effect.
So we've had a knockdown now.
No, the referee called it a slip.
Referee called it a slip.
Yeah, I know.
Just to rob us of the entertainment value, right?
I know you're reaching, but the referee called it a slip.
Uh-oh.
Does Gamboa's name mean anything to fighters? Forget about Lomachenko for a second. To fighters like Berchelt or Vargas or Miura or some of the junior lightweights we've seen on our air recently.
Well, I think Berchelt is such a new and developmental name that any name opponent means something to him. I mean, it certainly should mean something to Berchelt to fight a guy like Yuriorki Gamboa with his pedigree.
You put Gamboa in with a guy like Miura. That's a winnable fight for Gamboa, and it's a highly entertaining matchup. Based on something like this so far, Roy, you think he's ready for a guy like Berchelt?
No, I think he needs another fight or two, Max. He's just not coming off of a 15-month layoff. He should do like Andre Ward did, take another fight just to make sure you get yourself back together to give yourself the best chance at winning a big fight, because this is his last shot. He's 35 years old. If he doesn't get it this time, it could be over for him.
So it'll be up to Golden Boy Promotions how patient they want to be in this process.
If they care about him, they'll be extra patiently.
So obviously I bring up Berchelt because if you're not ready for him, Lomachenko would be out of the question in the near future.
Yeah, Lomachenko would be out of the question in the near future, but the pedigree makes the Lomachenko fight
interesting.
Very interesting.
Boys, as soon as the round ends, we're going to take a look back at what I momentarily thought was a knockdown, and Benji and Esteves chose to call a slip.
Yeah,
you
right
tell
here,
me.
Yeah, that's a right hand over the top that made contact with the head, and then this one makes, that one missed, but this next one makes contact. No, it was a push down because it was in the back of the head.
You're right.
And those are two punches that I would have been barred from boxing, not able to buy boxing gear anymore, couldn't wear a mouthpiece anymore. It's no telling what the hell would have happened to me had I done such thing in a boxing ring.
Anybody who does not know Roy Jones's brilliant career must be told that he is referring to the Montel Griffin fight. So go to YouTube and check out Roy Jones versus Montel Griffin, and you'll know why Roy just said
Jones Griffin won.
Montel Griffin won, yes, not the second one. But you want to see that too.
Come on, deep breaths without despair. Let's go.
This is round 10, final round.
Round 10 of a scheduled 10.
The other thing I want to give Gamboa credit for, Jim, is anytime this guy hits him with a good shot, you see he shows his willingness to trade, like right there. Gets him knocked down.
And this will be called a knockdown.
Yes.
So we have a knockdown in the fight.
Yep.
And it's Gamboa, who was down for what is now the 11th time in his career.
And I think that one was really a slip.
Yeah, I think it was a slip too, but he got hit with a good shot, but then got kind of pushed down, or rather went down off a miss.
Totally agree. But he shows you that if he gets hit, he's willing to exchange. That's what kind of hurt him in the Terrence Crawford fight toward the end, because he was trying to exchange with a much bigger and sharper, more powerful Terrence Crawford.
Sometimes we see not just fighters, but athletes who made a certain impression on the public in their prime. Clearly their stuff has eroded, and they're never really going to return as they once were. I don't know that that's Gamboa here. Gamboa's shown enough flashes tonight where the talent, to me, still, even if it's not pitched quite as high as it was 6 or 7 years ago, still very quick, Roy, explosive, elusive when he wants to be. Needs more fights.
And this is off of a 15-month layoff we're seeing this. So it doesn't look like he's lost much.
A minute to go.
And when Alvarado goes home and looks at this fight, he's going to be very upset with himself that he didn't try more or that he didn't gamble more. Good hook by.
Well, you know what he could do? He could always say, that was my identical twin brother. That was not me in there. My identical twin brother impersonated me and totally destroyed my reputation.
And he's going to upset his twin brother.
Let's take one more look at the knockdown of yuriorki Gamboa. And we're showing you this replay largely because something happened. And in most of the rest of the fight, nothing happened.
He took a shot right there, landed a shot right there. Nothing happened there. He saw his feet slip before he even threw the shot. He was completely off balance right there.
Yes, but the fact that Alvarado was lucky enough to make some contact with his head with the left glove as Gamboa was already falling down from having lost his balance.
Yeah, like a grazing shot.
Here we go. There's the lucky touch.
Yeah.
And that prompted the referee to call it a knockdown.
A thump on the ear.
So it's just Gamboa's luck that he wound up with the 11th knockdown of his career after having dominated a dreadful fight against Rene Alvarado. Harold, what was your final score?
I got it 97-92, 8 rounds to 2, yuriorki Gamboa. Like you say, Jim, he dominated the fight. I thought that Alvarado woke up in the 7th round to pull that out. And the 10th round, they gave him credit for the knockdown. But be as it may, Alvarado did very little fighting. It was Gamboa all the way.
And Harold, who are the 3 official judges who will render a decision?
Okay, Jim. Winkins comes from up here. Very interesting guy, you know. He's a pretty good judge, but, you know, he gets very little work because of the fact that he comes from up here. He worked that Nicholas Walters, what's his name, Jesus Sosa draw.
Jason Sosa, controversial draw.
Controversial draw is right. John McKay works all over the world. He had that Udieski Gonzalez Jean Pascal fight wrong, but be as it may, he's a very good judge.
But that wasn't a good scorecard, right, Harold?
Not at all. I didn't agree with that at all. Without question, Gonzalez won that fight. Tom Schreck, also, this is a fight that I also didn't agree with him. Tom's a good judge from Albany. He had Chris Algieri over Ruslan Provatnikov in a fight that I thought Provatnikov won. But be as it may, he usually does a good job, Jim.
All 3 example scores were scores with which Harold vehemently disagreed at the time. Here's Michael Buffer.
Resort Casino. We go to the scorecards. John McKay and Tom Schreck both score it 97-92. Winkins has it 97-93. All 3 scores to the winner by unanimous decision. El Ciclón de Guantánamo, yuriorki Gamboa.
Not a single spectator applauded the decision. Not a one.
What are you going to do?